Would you be able to recognize someone that disappeared and reappeared 20 years later? Well, let's find out with this family drama-esque movie, right? Drama? Chase Leak here with the Blue Futon reviewing The Return. So what's about? Pretty simple premise. This is Odysseus, right? Remember that Troy movie with like Matt Damon, no, Brad Pitt, Eric Bana, and Orlando Bloom? Well, this is kind of that story, but told differently, where this is 20 years later after that Troy event, the Trojan horse, and that island where the king is from, or the general is from, is kind of in disarray now, right? The wife hasn't been married for 20 years. People are starving, and a lot of other men are coming to this island to be like, I want to marry her for the riches, and that's about it, because that's what it is. But he randomly comes up on shore, and he's realizing, oh, wait a minute, this is my home island, and now he's got to figure out if his wife recognizes him, his son, other people on the island, and will he be able to do everything involved. So did I like this film? I did, actually. So going into this movie, like I said, if I can, for the best of me, not watch any trailers. And I think this premiered at TIFF or something, or a New York Film Festival, I don't know, bought by Bleecker Street. And I really did enjoy this movie through and throughout for the looks, the acting, the violence, and just the overall premise of what we were told. Because when we hear about the story of the Trojan horse, we're always talking about what's happening at the battle. Even with 300, the battle. Even though you kind of get the home-esque body, but this truly goes to like what happens to the people at home that don't go to war, and during this time of debauchery. I know debauchery is probably the wrong word, but people say we're savages now. I think we're tenfold savages back in the day. But the acting by everyone involved is really good. The direction's really good. The writing is really good. The scenarios are good. What I really dig about this movie is just the open landscape of, you know what, there's not going to be a lot of post-production. Yeah, sure, there might be post-production, some water effects, some blood effects, but everything was shot on screen, on camera, not a lot of cut edits, and you're just like, oh, that violence is there. And with this violence, it isn't like gratuitous, but it's like, people might be like, oh, I want to see more of it. But here's the thing, if you get shot by an arrow, if you get stabbed by a sword, you ain't like, ah, no, you're like, dead. Arrow in the heart, dead. Arrow, not even in the heart, but right here, you're still like, internal bleeding, dead. Lungs, dead. And it's that time where it's like, and there was no one left to like leave, because you are defacing this guy's house. And I really did dig that. That was the final action set piece at the very end, where you're like, okay, I really dig this. And you do get a lot of good character developments from other people in this involved, because you're honestly wondering, like, who are these people from? Like, where do they realize that? And I guess that's something where it's like, yeah, it's 20 years, so news does travel slow at this time. But also, there are some people on this island that were young, that wanted to marry this girl, and you're thinking, how did they figure out they were there through and throughout? Just little things like that. So some negatives, you could say it is a 2-hour movie, and there are some scenes in the beginning where you're like, where is this going to go, or why does it have to be in this film? For example, Ralph Fiennes, I always say his name wrong, full frontal nudity. Sure, why not? But you're just thinking, oh, do we really need to see a dick shot? And it's like, it holds there for like good 5-10 seconds. You're like, okay, fair enough. I mean, if you want to do it, but there's things like that where you're like, why is this actually in the movie? Also, at the very end of the film, you see it. Oh wait, I did see this trailer once. That's right, I did. Anyway, I lied to you guys, but I'm coming back to it. There's that scene where you got to do the bow through those little holes, right? Of 12 of them. I would like to see other people try, and I think maybe that would have been more of like who is worthy and who's not worthy, because at a point it was a little too simple. But also, you kind of realize that at a point, too, where the wife, when she meets him for the first time, she has some inclination. She's not dumb. She knows exactly what's going to occur and who this person is when looking at him. And I think that's the whole question at the beginning is, can you recognize someone from 20 years ago if they look completely different? It will be interesting, because now it's like, you kind of age the same. Because if you look at me at like high school time, you're like, oh, yeah, he looks the exact same. But then, where you don't have the moisturizers, when you have like the sun, where you have the grueling effect of like trying to survive from everything involved, you probably age a lot worse back in the day. So The Return, I really did enjoy this film. It was an epic, contained type of film, great acting, great cinematography, great looking film. I was entertained through and throughout this film. Like I said, a little bit of negatives would be some pace in the beginning and some things at the end where you wish it like, oh, some people tried, because some of these people are just dicks. You want them to die. And you're just like, oh, I want to see your just fathom. But it's also funny where there is a kind of predominant character who dies like kind of on screen, but barely like doesn't get a good death. It's more of like, oh, stab, dead. And you're like, that's life. That's life. So The Return will receive a 4.5 out of 5 with Futon, so it goes at 90%. So see the critics and user scores gave this one. So you have critics a 73% with 37 of them. Nothing for the audience score yet. Critic consensus. The Return removes the mythology from Odysseus' homecoming along with some of the fun, but Ralph Fiennes and Juliette Binoche terrific performances keep the drama absorbing. Yeah, I can see how some people might be kind of bored with this one. But I don't know, as a person who doesn't know really jack shit about Odysseus, I'm probably saying his wrong name. I'm probably saying his name wrong anyway. I still enjoyed what I saw on screen and the characters and everything that was happening. 73.90. Chase out here, the Blue Futon. Like, comment, subscribe. One more things, Bluetontopia. You Blue of Tony and Snake, watch for a great day. Watch stay tomorrow, week from, month, or year from. Every single freaking one of you. And yeah, sometimes I like these slow burn, just intimate movies, and this does it for me.